Mercer Hollow doesn't look like a town with a secret. That's the first thing worth knowing about it. Because most places that have a secret look like it. Boarded windows, a road nobody uses, a building people cross the street to avoid. Mercer Hollow looks like every other dot on the map at the edge of coal country. A main street with a diner, and a hardware store, and a church with peeling trim. A high school whose football lights still come on Friday nights, even though there's barely enough boys to field a team. A ring of hills going green to rust with the season, hiding, the way hills do, everything underneath them. If you grew up here, you knew the mine without ever having to be told about it. Greer Colliery had been closed longer than anyone currently in high school had been alive, sealed up tight in 1974, after what the historical marker outside the library calls, in faded brass letters, a tragic accident claiming 11 lives. The marker doesn't say more than that, and for 40-some years, nobody much asked it to. The mine entrance is fenced off now, swallowed by brush, just another shape in the hills. What's left in town is smaller and stranger. A patch of woods past the Voss place, where the snow never quite settles right in winter. A stretch of Route 9, where car radios sometimes hiss out for 10, 15 seconds at a time, always in the same quarter mile. The basement of the public library, which floods every April like clockwork no plumber's ever been able to explain, since the water table down there is, by every official measurement, fine. People call it the burn, when they call it anything. Most don't call it anything. It's just Mercer Hollow being Mercer Hollow. Hollis Brennan calls it data. He's behind the counter at Brennan Hardware on a Tuesday in late September, restocking a pegboard of furnace filters when we meet him properly for the first time. 17, unhurried, the kind of quiet that comes from spending a lot of time inside his own head and being fine with the company. His Uncle Pete is in the back doing inventory and hollering questions about a missing case of wood screws that Hollis answers without looking up. It's an ordinary afternoon, in an ordinary store, in an ordinary town. And Hollis likes it that way, mostly. Likes the rhythm of it. Likes that nothing here asks anything of him he isn't ready to give. What he doesn't say out loud, not to Pete, not really to anyone except, lately, the pages of a battered 3-ring binder he keeps in his backpack, is that he's been quietly, methodically cataloging every piece of Mercer Hollow that doesn't add up. The binder was his father's. Mercer Hollow, things that don't add up, written on the spine in Sharpie that's started to fade. Daniel Brennan kept it for years, on and off, the way some men keep a fishing log. Odd radio interference, livestock that wouldn't go near certain fence lines. A neighbor who swore up and down she heard her late husband's truck pull into the driveway 8 months after he died. Daniel never told anyone he took it seriously. He died 2 years ago, a highway accident on a delivery run, and Hollis found the binder cleaning out the garage 8 months later, sitting in a box he almost didn't open. He started adding to it because it felt like the closest he could get to a conversation that wasn't going to happen again. He kept adding to it because he turned out to be good at it, patient, skeptical, the kind of kid who'd rather sit with an unanswered question for 6 months than accept a comfortable lie to make it go away. We get a quiet, lived-in tour of his life through the afternoon. The walk home along 10th Street. The warm, low light of October coming in early. A stop at the Hollow Diner, where his best friend Theo Castellano is bussing tables and immediately roasts him for going full detective over a thermostat reading he clocked as 3 degrees off in the library basement last week. It's always 3 degrees off in the library basement, Theo says. That's not a mystery, man. That's bad insulation. It's 3 degrees off in a 15-foot radius, and normal everywhere else in the building, Hollis says. That's not insulation. That's a shape. Theo doesn't believe in ghosts. He believes in Hollis, which is a different thing, and it's why he agrees, rolling his eyes the whole time, to come check the library basement with him again this weekend. For the last time, I mean it. We meet Diane Brennan briefly that night. Tired, kind, 2 years into learning how to be a family of 2 instead of 3, picking up an overnight shift at the regional hospital, and leaving Hollis a note on the counter instead of dinner. It's a small, human moment. Not sad exactly, just real. The particular quiet of a house where grief has settled into furniture rather than staying sharp. And we meet Mara Voss, properly, the next morning, in the hallway outside first period, where she catches Hollis at his locker with the kind of hesitation that means she's been building up to this for days. They're not close. Same grade, a few mutual classes. The kind of overlapping orbits small towns guarantee whether you ask for it or not. But everyone in Mercer Hollow knows Mara's story and outline, even if nobody says it to her face. Her father, Marcus Voss, died in a house fire 3 years ago, out past the tree line near the old burn ground, and Mara's barely spoken about it since. "You're the one with the notebook," she says. Not a question. Hollis doesn't deny it. Binder. Whatever. She glances down the hall, checking who's near. "If I told you something weird, really weird, would you laugh? Try me." She almost backs out. You can see it, the half-step toward leaving, the breath that doesn't quite turn into words. Then, "I keep hearing my dad's truck, at night, pulling into the driveway. Same time, almost every night, like clockwork. And it's not there in the morning. There's no tracks, nothing. And I checked the neighbors' cameras, and there's nothing on those either. And I'm not..." She stops herself. "I'm not imagining it. I know what that sounds like. I'm not imagining it." Hollis doesn't laugh. He pulls out the binder, flips to a blank page, and starts writing down the details. Time, frequency, exact sound, what she's ruled out, with the same careful neutrality he'd use cataloging anything else. It's the first time in 3 years anyone's taken this seriously, instead of either pitying her or changing the subject. And you can see what that does to her. The relief of it, more than the fear. This part closes that evening with Hollis walking home past the edge of the burn at dusk. The warm patch of ground, the dead grass and a loose ring nobody's ever mapped properly. And for just a moment, the AM radio static on his phone catches something underneath the hiss. Not words. Not quite. Just a rhythm that sounds, for half a second, like an engine idling somewhere that isn't there. He stops walking, replays it, can't find it again. Writes it down anyway. Chapter 2. Static. Mara Voss doesn't come to school on Thursday. By itself, that's nothing. Kids miss school. It's the way Friday goes that turns it into something else. Her mother calling the office in a flat, careful voice that the school secretary will later describe as already braced for bad news. And by lunch, the particular electricity that runs through a small school when everyone knows something, and nobody knows what. The official version arrives by the end of the day, filtered down through whispers and one stiff PA announcement. Mara didn't come home Wednesday night. Her bike's gone from the garage. No note. Sheriff Decker's office opens a file. It does not take them long to decide what kind of file it is. Mara's been through a documented hard few years. The grief counselor's notes are part of the record before the end of the week, because someone leaked them, because that's how Mercer Hollow works. And runaway is a word that gets attached to her case fast, quietly, almost with relief, the way a town reaches for the explanation that asks the least of it. Hollis doesn't believe it for one specific reason he can't say out loud to anyone official. She'd just told him something. 2 days before she vanished, she'd handed him the most honest, frightened thing she'd said to anyone in 3 years. And people don't usually do that on their way out the door. People who are about to disappear on purpose don't go looking for someone to finally believe them. He goes to her house. Her mother, Renee Voss, answers the door already exhausted in the specific way of someone who spent 48 hours fielding the same conversation. We're doing everything we can. These things usually resolve themselves. And softens, slightly, when she realizes Hollis isn't here with sympathy. He's here with a notebook and a question. She mentioned hearing things, Hollis says carefully. At night. Renee's face does something complicated. She told you that? She told me she wasn't imagining it. A long pause. Then Renee lets him in, and we get the quiet, devastating center of it all. A mother walking a stranger through her missing daughter's room, because the police searched it for drugs and runaway plans, and found neither, and didn't know what else to look for. Hollis does. He finds a second notebook, Mara's own, not unlike his father's, full of dates, timestamps, a recording app's history showing dozens of short clips, all logged with the same chilling consistency. Dad's truck, 11:47 p.m. Dad's truck, 11:44 p.m. Dad's truck, 11:51 p.m. And tucked in the back, in different ink, added more recently and more urgently, a name, W. Pruitt, and a date, 1974, circled twice. Theo, when Hollis shows him later that night, is the one who puts it together first, flatly. That's the mine. That's the year of the mine thing on the library plaque. This is the turn. The moment the story stops being about one grieving girl hearing a sound and becomes about a town with buried history. Hollis plays Mara's most recent audio clip for Theo on the porch that night, late, both of them leaning in over a cracked phone speaker. It's mostly static, ordinary, broadband, meaningless hiss, the kind any old recording app would catch from wind or interference. Then, underneath it, so brief you could talk yourself out of having heard it at all. Something that isn't quite a word, a rhythm, the shape of a sentence with all the consonants sanded off. Neither of them says anything for a long moment. Okay, Theo says finally, quieter than before. Okay, I don't love that. This part ends with Hollis adding Mara's notebook details into his father's binder, page by page, drawing a rough map of Mercer Hollow on a blank sheet, and marking every location either of them logged a burn anomaly. The library basement, the dead patch of woods near the Voss house, the quarter-mile of Route 9 where radios cut out. They form a loose, uneven ring. And almost dead center of that ring, fenced and brush-choked and 40 years unvisited, sits the sealed mouth of the Greer colliery. He underlines W. Pruitt twice, the way Mara did, and writes one line beneath it before he closes the binder for the night. Find him.